Welcome to the Latin Wealth Podcast, a podcast dedicated to educating the Latino community about entrepreneurship, investing, and business.
Yo, what's going on, Latin Wealth family? Welcome to another episode to the Latin Wealth Podcast. And today it's Wealth Wednesday. You guys already know one of the best podcast shows out there talking about financial literacy, business, and entrepreneurship for the Latino community, created by two dope Latinos. I just had to say that. You know what I'm saying? So we got some really good topics that we're gonna hop into today. I'm excited about this episode. Last week we teased that there's some things going on in America with credit card losses, and man, it's rising at a faster pace since the great financial crisis in 2007, 2008. So we're gonna jump into that and what all that means. But before we do that, Jeremiah, how you feeling today, bro?
I'm feeling great, man. We hinted, like you said, last time, but we're gonna lay it all out this time. So I'm excited for the people to hear this story because I think it's touching a lot of people.
Yep. So we're gonna jump right into it today. And one of the things that we wanted to hit on before we touch on the credit card crisis and whatnot is, we love to come on here and talk about the things that are going on in our lives and the things that we're learning and applying to our own lives as entrepreneurs, as Rico being a father, both of us being husbands and whatnot. So a book that both of us just wrapped up reading, and we want to talk about this, man, because it was a very insightful book, is the book called Dopamine Nation, right? Finding Balance in an Age of Indulgence, right? Great book. We mentioned a couple of times that we have a men's book club, and this is a book that we chose for the month. Phenomenal book. I think a lot of the guys got great feedback from it. It's funny because I was talking to one of the guys from the group, and I'm like, yo, every time we were reading a book, I'm not too sure like if the guys are gonna get something from it. Is this going to be one of them books where like it's an off month? But It seems like a lot of guys got something from this book. And like I said, the subtitle of the book is Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence, right? And we think of indulgence, we think of maybe indulging in food, sweets, chocolate, social media, even on a deeper level, indulging in drugs, or even in the book, they talk about indulging in porn, indulging in sex, and it just keeps going on and on. So what we want to do on this intro icebreaker section of the podcast is we want to talk about the things that we learned from this book, and hopefully it's going to inspire you to grab the book or even to apply some of these lessons that we learned from the book. But Jeremiah, kick us off, man. What are some of the things that you learned from the book? What are your thoughts on the book? I'm really curious. I didn't get to see like, what do you actually think about the book?
Man, you know what? To be honest, I believe that it's this book is something. It's a book that everyone should have in the space of personal development, because in our culture today, especially American culture, right, everything is about indulgence. It's about instant gratification. And so I like this book because what it broke down was the balance between pleasure and pain receptors, right? And I'm a scientific guy, so I kind of like that too, like kind of broke down how that works. But then also just like on a normal level, the balance you need to have between pleasure and pain. Having an overexertion on either side of it is bad, right? Like pleasure, which is what we do most of the time. We talk about, Chris, I remember like maybe 2 or 3, maybe I think episodes ago, we talked about obesity level in the United States, right? And so this has to do with that. That's over excessively using sugar. A lot of it, the obesity has to do with sugar intake, right? And why do we do that? Because sugar releases dopamine in our brains, serotonin. And these are things that make us feel good, the feel good hormones, right? And so for me, I like the book because it broke down why we do what we do, because a lot of people don't even realize. You grab some candy, you're in the mood, you just go grab some candy, you grab a cake, whatever, right? You're doing something to cope, right? It's that feel good. You want that dopamine. Well, what happens is you build up that tolerance and then you have to intake more of it. It's no different than drugs. You know, a lot of us don't even think about it, but coffee, tea, like all the, and I like the way the book broke that down. I mean, I think that that was key because I think in a lot of our brains, we associate negativity with pain, right? Pain, stuff that causes you pain is negative, but we hardly ever do we think about things that make us feel good being wrong.
Mm.
And so I like how it addressed that and thought about how do I restore a healthy balance? You know, learn to break addictions, enjoy indulgences in moderation. We hear that all the time, not trying to be super, everything in moderation. It's important to have things in balance. And I think for me, that's one of the main things I learned was the breakdown between how unconsciously a lot of times we lean toward things that are addictive.
Mm-hmm.
And we do things that are it's addictive in nature, but we may not even know it. It's like kind of subconscious. That was one of the biggest things that I was reading about, and I was like, dang, most people don't think about that. But you do something and you don't conscientiously do it. You're just doing it, but it has subconscious links. So that's one of the things that I learned. I think that was, I was like, huh, that's actually really deep. And the reason why we do what we do.
Mm-hmm. No, that's big. I think my takeaway is very similar. I mean, what you just broke down is pretty much the premise of the book. You know, my biggest takeaway is the relentless pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain and challenges in life really is what leads people to self-destruction, right? If you think about just life as a whole, if you're able to do the hard things in life, the things that are hard to do, the things that are challenging are actually the things that are worthwhile having. You guys hear it all the time. Anything that comes easy is gonna go easily, right?
Yep.
Easy money, that thing's gonna go quick, right?
Yep.
You know, easy, quick food is probably not gonna be healthy for you. But anything that is challenging and hard to overcome, there's probably something at the end of it that's actually beneficial for you, right? So the way I look at it is if you can overcome the hard things, but not only the hard things in life, but navigate through the abundance that we live in, right? This world of abundance, to our phones. I mean, we have access to whatever we want on our phones. We got cars, we can get anywhere we want. If you can overcome and navigate that abundance, I believe that you really have the world at your fingertip. And I hope that makes sense, right? Because again, we can run to our phones for pleasure and indulgence. We can go out. I mean, we have access to so much in this world. And I think this quote comes from the book. You know, typically after I'm done reading the book, I'll do even more research about it and see other people's perspective on it. And I think this quote came from the book. It says that we are like a cactus in a rainforest. We are built for a world of scarcity and we're living in a world of abundance, right? So I love that quote. I think it came from the book, but again, like it's just so much, whether you want to call it temptation, abundance around us, that we have access to so much. And I think our human instincts, if you look back to even 50 years ago, we didn't have nearly as much access that we have now, right?
Right.
Hopefully that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
No, it did. And I want to say that I think it's applicable to more like westernized civilizations, and that's Europe and us, because that's where you see the excess, the abundance. To most of the world, that's not applicable. And I think what's funny is they tying the books together, Dopamine Nation to Ikigai, which was a book that we read previously, right? You go to some nations where they don't have that same access, but yet they're living longer, healthier lives. I think that that's very well linked to the presence of abundance and the excessive nature and the instant gratification that we do in the westernized world, right? The Western civilizations. I think that that's directly tied to it, and that's something to be considered because in the majority of the world, they don't have access to these things like that readily. Yeah. But you'll see the quality of life and probably the mental state of those people is probably in a better place.
Man, 100%. Let me ask you about this. You know, another thing that I took away from the book that it spoke about is recovery begins with abstinence, abstaining from that thing that you're trying to recover from fully, right? Like in the book, it says like the only way to recover from something or to get over
Cut it
something
off.
is to cut it off.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't doing like,
Gradual.
I'm not gonna have 5 Twinkies this week. I'm gonna have 3.
Yeah.
You don't just go back to that 5, right? To cut it off. So what is your thought about that? I mean, it's you
It's
hear it all the time. It's tough, but like you hear it all the
it's
time. People are like,
contradictory. I think it's contradictory to what we've been taught. But then again, you got to understand the premise of what we've been indoctrinated and what people have told us has been based upon the exact same like belief system, right? Which is I still want to have my cake and eat it too. But it's true. If you really want to get away from something, you got to just cut it off. That's the only way you're really going to get away from it. And people say it's like getting the nicotine patches, but you know, people that have been wearing nicotine patches for 20 years and they're still smoking with the nicotine patch. But that's why. And I believe that's the basis of what they're saying. Like you're trying to gradually leave it, right? Instead of just going cold turkey is what they call it in the world of like drugs and addictions and things. But cold turkey, it works, right? You just have to put yourself in that situation. And then, you know, there's usually other stuff that's connected with that, withdrawal or whatever. But once you break through that, it's a breakthrough and you usually do better.
yeah, 100%. And I'm not gonna sit here and act like I went cold turkey from drugs, alcohol, or anything that deep. But recently we did a fast, and usually when we do a fast, we'll fast from again something that's challenging from us. So whether it's food, sweets, or maybe it's like, yo, I'm gonna do a water fast today. And I will say, as you said, it's challenging, but it's I'll say this, like for me, I was doing a water fast and a fruit fast. And I noticed once I ate that healthy meal, once I went back to eating healthy, it's like you reset your what is it called? Your dopamine, something in my brain just reset to where I'm able to enjoy that thing a lot more, right? Is what I'm trying to say. So like my senses are heightened, I can smell everything more, like I can tell I'm salivating because I'm hungry and whatnot. And when I'm able to enjoy that thing that I'm abstaining from, then it to me there's more. To me, it's like beneficial. You know what I'm saying? Having that thing. And again, I'm not abstaining for anything bad. It's just like once I jump into okay, water fast is done, fruit fast is done, time for me to have my healthy meal. I enjoy it that much more.
I agree. The actual it's you savor that, right? And so you're enjoying it while you're eating it versus just it's just substance, right? It's just something going in your mouth or you're just coping, right? Hand to mouth mechanism and stuff like that. So I agree. I think that the fast I was doing with sweets, so like the tangy candy, but I had already on the food side, like, done that or partially. I'm actually practicing that on a daily basis. I do 16-hour fast daily, right? So I don't eat after 7, don't eat before 11 a.m. Right. So that's a daily thing for me. And what I've noticed is the clarity, the mental clarity. And then, like you said, when I do eat, I enjoy that meal. I eat once a day. I enjoy that meal to the utmost degree, right? And it's a different level. But it takes time to get there. I will say that. But yeah.
Definitely takes time to get there. And let me tell you something. What hasn't took a lot of time to get to is this credit card losses that we are in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So credit card losses are rising at the fastest pace since the great financial crisis, at a time where Americans, we owe more than $1 trillion on credit card.
Crazy.
We just keep racking it up, right? We just keep going. It's been the fastest pace in just about 30 years. With all this going on, it's absolutely insane. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts about this? I know we spoke about the credit card crisis, I think 2 months ago, and you had asked me like, "Yo, do you think it's just going to keep going up?" And we both pretty much agree like, there's nothing stopping this, right? So,
Not at
what are your
all.
thoughts about it? Yeah.
I think that what's crazy, what people don't understand is that it's kind of cyclical. People are spending money on their credit cards because of in COVID times, right? They lost their jobs, which is further placing them in a bigger hole, but you're trying to get out of that hole using credit, but it's placed you in a bigger hole. Why are you saying that? Because let's be honest, the Fed is doing what they're doing because people they're not stopped spending. Like they're continuing to spend. And so the Fed is like, what we're doing isn't working, right? They're increasing interest rates. So the credit card, what's crazy is spending to account for the interest rates, which put you in a deeper hole. It's like this whole cycle.
Cycle.
And I don't think government wise, I don't think we're even really fully addressing the issue where it needs to be. I believe for the most part, the issue is that people lack financial literacy. They don't even know how to properly save. They don't know how to properly align their budgets. People don't have budgets. Some people aren't paid what they should be paid, right? There's teachers and stuff that aren't paid what they should be paid. There's a lot of different factors, but I think the main factor of why we're at and why it won't ever end is we're trying to combat the sickness essentially, right? By treating the symptom. We're not trying to cure it. We're trying to treat the symptom. We're not getting down deep and actually on, and that is, a lack of awareness, financial awareness, a lack of mindset of how to actually properly structure your finances.
100%. It definitely is just putting a Band-Aid over the wound, right? And it's crazy because we're in a economic downturn. Prices of things are higher than ever. It seems like
it's a recession. They won't say it, but
they won't say it. But it's like it's a recession. But the spending habits are still out of control.
Yes,
and that to me clearly is a lack of financial literacy, like you said.
I think the biggest thing that's crazy and what people will start to realize, we're going to see, and I'm predicting this, we're going to see the credit card, right? We're going to see that debt rise exponentially. I want you to think about for the past 3 years, right? Or about 3 years, student loan debt has been on hold. That went back into play this month, right? As we're recording this, it's October the 3rd. So that's going back into play. People are starting to have to pay that back again. What you're going to see is not only an increase in default within the student loan and then the increasing of that debt on that side, but you're also going to see the debt increasing with credit cards as people seek to pay for this student loan that they haven't accounted for in their budget with the credit card. And so you're going to start to see that stuff continue to increase. I mean, it's inevitable and it's pushing that. And then rates are still going up. I think the Fed said that they're going to increase rates at least 1 or 2 more times for the rest of the year. So there's yeah.
So let's bring it back a little. I'm curious if somebody's out there is, student loan payments are coming back. They got credit card debt, whatever that number is. What is an immediate action plan for them? Like, what is the first thing you would recommend that someone should do? Obviously, it's a case-by-case scenario, and it really depends on, do you have a job? Are you an entrepreneur? Do you have multiple streams of income? Do you got a family? There's a lot of things to consider. But looking at this situation, what is something that you would recommend? Or if you were in this situation yourself, what did you do?
The number one thing to do is to budget, appropriately budget. That's going to be the answer no matter if you have a job or you don't have a job, right? Obviously, it's more important if you don't, right? Because you're going to have to look at the resources, as limited as they are, to align them with taking care of your responsibilities. But budgeting is number one. You need to sit down and you need to understand what money's coming in, what money's going out, what do you have left, which is discretionary. The second thing that I would sit and do is be honest with yourself about the likelihood of you paying this stuff back. What does that mean? What I mean by that is there's certain services and things that are offered, like debt consolidation and stuff like that, that is maybe an option that you need to consider. If you haven't ever considered it before you get in a place to where you're back against the wall and you've defaulted and there's, garnishments on your bank account, all kind of craziness, like think about it from the beginning. Sit down and say, can I handle this? Maybe I need to be looking at some consolidation issues for credit card and for, student loan if it's private, not government.
I love that. Great advice. So when a lot of people, they think of budgeting, they think of, I need to cut back. I can't have my Starbucks every day. I can't go to the movie. Okay,
Yeah.
talk to us about that
So it's
because
about it's about the allocation of your income, right?
Mhm.
What income you have coming in, it's how you align that. A lot of times, a lot of us don't have money because we're not properly allocating our money, right?
Mhm.
Like, yeah, you could still have your Starbucks. It's just you can't have as much of it, right? You
Mhm.
have to do balance. So no, you can't do 4 or 5 cups a day. No, you have to cut it down to two. And you'd be surprised what that right how that aligns. There's other bills and things that you may pay late, which adds interest or late payments to those payments, which is costing you more. You're going to have to look at the date and say, okay, I got to pay this when I can pay, and you pay it when you can pay it, obviously, right? But I think just with the alignment and looking at how we allocate our money, the income that's coming, we pay things that would help a lot of people.
as we start to wrap this episode up, how important is generating more income in this situation? Because I think we hear a
Hmm.
lot about budgeting. We
Oh
hear people
God.
talking about, cutting back and whatnot. But,
I mean, that's the, I
you know,
mean, to be honest, that's the true answer, right?
yeah, no, I was going to say because, you and I, business minded hustlers, whatever you want to say, my mind goes like, if things are rising up, then my income needs to go up as well. If I want to be able
100%.
to afford these things, I need to be able to make more. I need to be able to, provide at a higher level. What are your thoughts about that?
I agree. I think that a lot of times when I sit down with a lot of clients, I'll tell them you need to make more income. And they look at me like I'm crazy. And they're like, I make such and such. Yeah, that was good for 3 or 4 years ago, pre-COVID. Your inflation rate was at, I mean, just in 2021, you were buying a house at 2.9% interest, which is unheard of, right? Like things aren't the same. So Fat Joe says that yesterday's price is not today's price. And you got to understand that. And that works against you as well, not just what you're charging, but what is being charged of you, right? So if you're looking at it, inflation is crazy. I was looking at orange juice price shot up through the roof, like just little things. We saw eggs, like things that you
Yeah.
would not really account, but it's costing you. So if I'm being honest with myself, I'm sitting there and I'm like, Jesus, I'm just not bringing enough in. It's time to develop, like you said, develop a hustle or look at an alternate stream of income. What
Mhm.
skills do you have? What passions do you have that you can monetize? That would be my
Mm.
question.
And I truly believe that everybody has this.
For sure.
I don't know what I was doing the other day, but I don't know if I believe that everybody has the ability to be an entrepreneur, but I do believe everybody has the ability to be financially free and that can create multiple streams of income for themselves. Right. And I think at the very least, that's what most people want. Most people don't want to manage a company, they don't want to manage people and whatnot, but they want the luxury to go on vacation or to be
Yeah,
financially free, not to be in debt and whatnot. And I do believe everybody has that ability to do that.
I agree. And I think that there's a book, as we wrap up, there's a book that I'm going to, shoot out there for people, especially in the business related world, but it's something that helps me quite a bit. But Your Next Five Moves by Patrick Bet-David,
Yeah.
great book.
Mm-hmm.
You want to sit there and properly assess where your business is at. He speaks about entrepreneurs and then entrepreneurs. Honestly, an entrepreneur is somebody, we know what that is. A person builds their own business, they blah, 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 right? An entrepreneur is someone like, Paul Ballmer, somebody from Microsoft, somebody that goes inside of a company, sees opportunities to help increase their value within that company. The system's already laid, but they're just creating new things within that system. And they pay them and reward them handsomely for creating additional value for that company. So maybe you're supposed to be an entrepreneur and not an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur.
Mm. That's big right there. That's actually a bar. That's probably something we need to speak about. But no, that's huge. I don't know why when I was thinking when you're telling your clients you need to make more money, you were just looking at them cold blooded, man. How many people did you make cry out there?
Oh, I keep them. I know you're right. I don't lie to people, man. I'm very direct. A lot of people will call you an a-hole. And I get that all the time. But I'm very direct and I just tell them straight up. I mean, I'll be honest. If you're doing a good job, I'll be like, hey, you're doing a good job. But with a lot of clients, they don't like that. They're like, what do you mean? Well, exactly what I
Mm-hmm.
said. You need to make more money
Yeah,
because you live a
100%.
lifestyle, right, that is dictating you need more money. You don't want to decrease what you're doing. So we have to increase that income.
Definitely. Love that. Great episode. A lot of great information here. As always, share this episode with somebody else out there that needs to hear this, especially Latinos that needs to hear this information. And I think that's it. I'm excited for us to continue to come on here, give you guys value every single week. You know, it's we're definitely growing. There's people reaching out for opportunities and whatnot. And I mean, look, we honestly haven't even scratched the surface of the potential that, and I don't even want to use the word potential. I don't want to use that. But we haven't even scratched the surface of what we envision to do and where we envision to be. So rock with us. Get on the boat, share this with somebody out there that needs to hear this podcast episode. And as always, it's the Latin Wealth family. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace.
Later, guys.